Today's video is sponsored by air conditioning because it is 108 degrees outside or something like that, and it's just too hot. So I'm going to work on inside stuff with the washing machine that decided to stop working. This is a very common problem with these LG washing machines, and this is a combination washer dryer in one. It's very well loved, as you can see, and it's got this small washing thing down here that's completely separate. So what happens here is the washing pump, which is down here, decides to stop working. So this doesn't spin, there's no resistance, and it just gives out. These things last about a year and a half, sometimes 2 years. This one's about 2 years old, so I got a little bit more use out of it than normal. This part is kind of buried in the bottom right here, down over here with these little hoses and stuff hooked up to it. So kind of a easy thing to get off. But what you do to get it out, on the back here there's a screw here and here. You take those off, the whole top plate slides backwards, and then you lift it up. There is a screw on this model, at least, to remove this front cover, one right here, and then a screw, I guess, here and here, which is on the front side right there. And then this whole thing right here just snaps out, and then you can just rest it up to the top. And on the front area here on the front, there is just a metal ring that holds that lip on, which is right here. You just pry that out, and that removes the drum from the front area. And on top of that, this cover down here, there's one screw at the bottom, it goes into here. Take that off, take that cover out, and then this entire front area leans backwards, and you can lift it out. You need to unplug this connector here for the door sensor, and then the whole thing comes out. And then to get to the pump out, you get these pieces off here. It's kind of hard to see without my light. So to get the pump out, you disconnect hoses, just these little spring hose clamps, and then the wiring on one side, and then the wiring to the other side. So unhook those, and then it all comes out. Kind of twist it and get it through here. And then we get to this part. So this thing is only held in place with 3 screws. You can get those screws out. It's pretty easy. And then this motor just pops off. This one I had to take this bottom plate out of the way so to have enough room to clear right here. But once it clears there, and that's fine. This bottom plate's just held in by 3 screws, and it just comes out. This cover just snaps on and off. It just protects the metal of the motor from water or whatever. And then it's just trying to finagle it back in and then hook everything back up, and should work just fine. Again, the problem with this was the pump motor stopped working, and then it just doesn't pump anything out. Everything else is fine. The tub spins free, the motor works great. This thing is like 5 years old, 7 years old or something. It was 2017 display here. So this is 4 or 5 years old. So this is on a 2nd or 3rd motor. I've already replaced the light in here because that was all. This had actually kind of melted from the heat from this thing, because there's a washer dryer combo, so it builds up heat in the steam, and it pumps out the steam, moisture, vapor out to the back, and then that's how it works with just a 120. Works pretty well. I've got a slightly newer model next to it that it's the same thing. I haven't had a chance to replaced the pump motor out of that one yet, but I'm sure it's going to fail at some point too. And one thing I forgot to mention here before I get this bolted on, this is held in place by 3 bolts that are 10 millimeter. They look like this. There's not much thread on them. They're really coarse thread, and it just goes into plastic, so just a couple of rotations and they come out. And they go to those rubber bushings that keep it from bouncing around and causing too much noise. These hose clamps are basically the same as the automotive hose clamps. So I use the same tool I used to get those off on these hard to reach areas. It works really well as these spring as pliers, these hose clamp things. This one I have here is a gear wrench 82115. It works really well. You just squeeze it, locks in place, and it holds it so you can get those spring type hose clamps off without too much effort. Makes it a lot easier. Right, got everything put together here, all screwed down. Everything's now in place. The only problem is now is getting this attached. So this is always the tricky part of getting this lip put over this edge, and then that ring. And that ring just pushes down to hold it in this little groove right here. And it just takes a little bit of work and some frustration. And then the metal ring is on. Just kind of get it started around here as best as you can. And kind of hold it in place and work it around with a screwdriver just as that lip gets in there. Then before you even start it, you got to make sure that this lip is set in there as best as you can. And yeah. So I just got to double check that. There's a little indentation here for that little spring to go into. It doesn't have to be perfect. And probably actually be anywhere really, but it works best on the bottom. And then make sure the door shuts. Door shuts. Now I gotta test the pump. Well, the one feature I like on this older unit versus the newer one is this one has a drum light. You can turn on manually, kind of whenever you want to. It just runs for a little bit, so you can actually see what's going on in there. Without using like a flashlight or something. Doesn't really do much, but it's neat to have. This seems to be working okay. Gotta wait for it to rinse all that extra soap out of there from when the pump failed, and hopefully the pump works again. And the pump works again. So, pump out all the soapy water and have a functioning washer dryer combo again. So if you like this video, subscribe. If you don't, let me know. Leave a comment and say whatever you need to.